FM by Vince Staples is the newest addition in the Long Beach Rappers catalog. Is it an album, an EP, a mixtape, a playlist, a compilation? Who knows? Who cares? What do labels even mean in 2018? Whatever. But whatever it is, I think it's a great project. Kenny Beats, he killed it on the production here. If I'm not mistaken, he produced the whole thing, and he brought a typical modern West Coast sound, but he added way more flair and personality to it. Specifically, he made these beats a lot more texturally interesting than a lot of the flat-sounding material you usually hear from this subgenre. From the playful, warped, droplet-sounding notes on Fun to the buzzing robotic synth lead on Feels Like Summer to the bleeding keys and fast tempo of Don't Get Chipped to the dark, deep, sinister sounding synth that runs through parts of Relay, this EP has far more character and finesse than any other rap you'll hear in this vein. Another cool thing about this project is that Vince made it run like you're listening to a radio station. He doesn't overdo it, he just sprinkles in these moments just enough to give you that feeling, and it makes the album flow really smoothly from track to track, and it also puts you in this headspace of just riding down the highway on a sunny California day, listening to a radio station. And it also, on a thematic level, it kind of ties into what I'll get into a bit when I'm talking about the lyrics. But if you look at the lyrics of Feels Like Summer, which kind of, to me, embodies the theme of the whole project, you kind of understand how the radio aspect also ties into that. I guess to briefly summarize, so those words aren't completely empty, basically this project is kind of about the duality between the violent and party-loving side of his hometown. You know, in the music that you get there, it makes it seem like it's all fun and games when the reality is a lot harsher. But to enhance this radio theme, we get two short little snippets of songs, one from Tyga and one from Earl Sweatshirt. The Tyga one I see a lot of people hating on, and I guess, you know, people just don't like Tyga. I don't either. I frankly don't think I've ever heard a song from the guy that I don't dislike. But here in this 30-second dose, I actually thought it sounded pretty good. We just get a really wavy, breezy, southern beat, you know, a lot more derivative than I think Kenny Beats did on the rest of this project, but it's a Tyga song, so that's what you'd expect. And Tyga just brings a really wavy flow, you know, his A's, just, you know, he just rides the beat, I guess, well. I guess if Tyga was just, I'm taking him in a 30-second dose, it's not bad, and since it adds to the West Coast flair, I don't know, I think it served its spot well on the project. Am I really going to be bothered by a 30-second interlude that's really just used to amplify the West Coast feel of the project? No, I think it's actually an enjoyable moment. And then the Earl Sweatshirt part, as a massive Earl Sweatshirt fan, you know, we've also gotten his new single, Nowhere to Go, which I have not been able to put down. But it was a nice precursor to that, I guess, just to finally get a taste of a new verse from him. It was cool to hear him rapping over this bouncier, heavier production. We usually don't hear him on beats like this. I especially love the clanking drums on this one. And even though he's only on the track for 20 seconds, he's still giving us quotables. I like that line where he said, "By my mama crib, it's a lot of Crips. I reported nothing. That's just how it is." You know, kind of saying that even though this violence is going on near his own mother's neighborhood, he's not going to abandon his roots and snitch on them, I guess, just because now he's famous and he doesn't have to deal with that because, you know, he's from that type of lifestyle and he understands what it's about, so he's just going to stay silent about it. As I alluded to earlier, lyrically on this project, Vince, he's as sharp as ever. On the first song, like I said, he kind of illustrates the theme of this whole project, just the duality of his hometown and the very fine line between the light and the dark that happens there. There's a lot of great lines on here that illustrate that. Right away with the first line, he says, "Summertime in the LB, wild, we gon' party till the sun or the guns come out. Either a night could just end averagely," you know, he stays up till the morning, or it could end in violence. And the way this song and the rest of the album kind of has this more casual tone, it's almost chilling. It's like desensitized in a sense. You know, you're so used to it. It's like, yeah, I guess the party could end with someone dying, but you know, I see that every day. So to me, it kind of has a very chilling effect. Especially this song is one of the more serious in tone, but still hard at the same time. I don't know. It's a weird mix of things, but it definitely hits hard for me. A couple more lines on here that stood out to me are when he said, "Same way since summer school, baby J. Either I'm gonna make the news or make a play." In his mind, he's either gonna end up on the news, dead, or maybe convicted of something, or he can make a play to get out of this lifestyle, you know, with his rapping or something of the like. And it's kind of, you know, make it out or die trying, I guess. And then his line where he said, "Past Alyssa House, could have took a different route, wouldn't be without, I think about it every day." Where he's from, something as simple as just taking a different route home could completely change his life, could have left him dead. And you know, when you really think about that, it's another moment where it's just super hard hitting, because people like me are extremely fortunate to have never even thought about something. You know, when I decide how I'm getting home, I just think of the fastest way. I don't have to think about, you know, is it even going to be safe for me to go this way? So it's crazy, it's kind of heartbreaking, and it's just viciously honest and blunt. It's not all super serious on this project. Vince, of course, is a pretty funny guy. If you follow him on Twitter or just even listen to his music, you probably know that. And I mean, on Run the Bands, he has one of my favorite lines of the year where he says, "House so big, need Kanye lipo, Nikes off white like halftime Myco, him no play him Bateman psycho." Especially the first part of that, the Kanye lipo line. It's just pretty funny. I like on Don't Get Chipped when he says, "You a fan, I'm the man, it's a difference, stop pretending, you know you feel it, record deal, but I did it independent." Basically, he's saying, yeah, he may have a record deal now that may help him promote himself and his music, but he earned that record deal. He got there all by himself. Nobody gave him handouts to get there. Not just anyone can get a record deal, and his independent hustle and hard work, he's the guy who's to credit for his success. On songs like Outside and Fun, we get more of that main theme I was talking about. We have these really fun sounding songs with really dark content that kind of illustrate that type of duality. But the song Tweakin' is the closing track on here, and this is the one that actually kind of embraces the sadness and the melancholy of the situation. It's the one song on this project that, I wouldn't necessarily call a banger. It actually does sound downtrodden and defeated in a sense, and it's definitely the most emotionally poignant part on the album for me. In his first verse, when he's talking about when Jabari died, was off the porch for homicides. Then when Hefe died, I bought some things to pass the gas. But when Johnny died, all I had was shows booked, down to burn in hell. I don't care how my soul look. Basically, as he's kept evolving, a lot of his friends and the people he knew back home have just stayed stuck in that cycle and keep dying. And no matter what happens to him, he's almost, kind of stuck in that lifestyle forever because he's losing people close to him. And it's really just bleakly tragic, and there's not much else you can say about it. It's almost hopeless in a sense, and a pretty powerful moment. And also when he says, just got a call about my tweets, told me to watch what I'm saying, just got a call about the streets, told me to watch for a Jeep. I love that line because obviously just got a call about his tweets. He can tweet some controversial things at times, so I guess his management or whatever may tell him to chill sometimes, but that illustrates his fame, where he is now. But then just got a call about the streets, tell me to watch for a Jeep. Even though he's where he is now, he still can't escape the streets. Told him to watch for a Jeep. There may still be people out to get him, his whole lifestyle still haunting him, and just, no matter what he does, no matter how much fame he achieves, he can't escape that. I just think all across this thing, like Vince's lyrics, there's so much fantastic text and subtext, and I've seen people call this project lazy, and I really don't see that at all, especially actually in terms of any aspect: production, lyrics, flows, Vince's personality. Everything here just seems so fiercely inspired. When Vince said he took a break from the other project he was working on to make this, I think it's because he had a sudden surge of huge inspiration, and to me that comes across in bounds on this. I don't think that Vince would have made this if he didn't feel like it was necessary and timely for him to make. I think he felt a strong surge and sense of urgency and love for his hometown, and he just wanted to bring this project out and show people this. And I think, I'm not saying that people are listening to it wrong, I don't want to be pretentious, but I do think maybe some people just gave this a few surface level listens, didn't really dive more into what Vince was saying, because I get on the surface this may seem just a mindless West Coast album, but I think there's actually a lot more to this if you really look into it. And not even in the sense that, oh, it's super deep, bro, you just won't get it, you have to listen to it like 500 times. I think it's pretty easy to get, but you understand what I mean. Sometimes you might just give something some casual listens, and just by the kind of the main sound of it, you're like, there's not much to this, and you don't even try to look into it. But I think if you do, there's a lot to love here, and a lot to glean from it that is more than just, hey, let's party and guns and violence and stuff. I love Kamaya's feature on No Bleedin', which also has maybe my favorite drums on the project. I love how clunky and metallic they sound, very different to anything else that I usually hear in this style of music. But the reason I love her feature is not that she has any crazy lines or anything, but just her melody and flow on here and the way that matches the production. It just sounds so fun to me, especially the part where she says, click, clack, bang, bitch, I stay dangerous. It's one of those moments where it's just something about the way she says it that is so entertaining to me, and maybe other people wouldn't get the same satisfaction that I do out of that moment, but just her entire verse, really infectious, really fun, catchy moment to me. I think the choruses across this thing are pretty fantastic. The only chorus that I don't think is that great is Run the Bands, just the run the bands, run the bands, run the bands, run the bands, hey. And I mean, yeah, it's a bit repetitive, and not necessarily that hooks being that repetitive kills them for me, because the No Bleedin' hook is also very repetitive, and I love that, the head on a swivel, no bleeding me. But to me, that hook, the reason I like it more is it has more bounce, and I also love the inflection, especially on the bleeding me part. There's just a little more eccentricity there, where the Run the Bands hook just sounds really flat, doesn't get me excited in any type of way. But other hooks on here, like, we just want to have fun, we don't want to fuck up none, kind of like how he uses the acronym there. And then Relay has the best hook on this entire thing, easily, the Fed chirp on Skinner, got blurp with the hammer, just the way he says those words, extremely entertaining. One thing I love about Vince is he's always able to use his delivery and inflections to just make things have a lot more character and charisma than if other rappers just said, Fed chirp on scanner, got blurp with the hammer. No, he takes it to another level, and that's something I always appreciate about artists. The last thing I want to compliment on here is Vince's flows. I've seen some people say that his flows on here are just kind of dull and unvaried, and it just makes me wonder, have they even heard the project? Because he switches his flows like 5 or 6 times on every song, and a lot of times within one verse. You know, he's doing a lot of great stuff flow-wise on here to me, so I just don't hear how you just hear the same thing over and over, because it's far from that. You listen to a song like Outside, which is only 2 minutes long, but he changes his flow multiple times within each verse, on the chorus, even on the outro. Don't Get Chipped, when he comes in with a much more urgent sounding flow than you'll hear for him anywhere across this entire project. Some of my favorite flows from him are when he matches them with a really eccentric delivery to perfectly match the track, like on Feels Like Summer with the "Scared money don't make money, hey, white man won't take from me, hey," and then on Fun, when he has that part where he broke, we know, sitch, he told, he owned, print, black and white like old flicks, we blame them bands, they gold, I'm hopeless. I mean, he just has so much across this project. I don't know how you can listen to Feels Like Summer, then Relay, then Don't Get Chipped, then Tweakin', then Fun, and then go ahead and tell me, oh yeah, he had basically the same flow on all those songs. I don't know, I can't take that seriously. So you can probably tell I'm a very big fan of this project. I love pretty much every song on here, even the one song, Run the Bands, that I'm not as hot on because of the weaker chorus. I still like the droning production, and Vince's verses are still great, so it's, you know, not a moment that I'm bogged down by at all. I still think it's a good song, and yeah, I don't think Vince has dropped a dud to date. All his projects, ever since Hell Can Wait, you know, if you want to count mixtapes or not, maybe there's a bit of room to argue, even though I still think all his mixtapes are really good. But all his official projects so far, they've all been great, and he just can't seem to miss. He's just on fire. Easily one of my favorite rappers in the game today. So much I love about this project that I've already talked about. The lyrics, the production from Kenny Beats, who has been killing it this year between this, Rico Nasty, the new JPEG Mafia song, Freddie Gibbs. Kenny Beats is definitely a guy to keep my eye on in the future. And then, of course, just Vince's performances on here and just the entire radio theme of it. It's just a project that has undeniable replay value for me. You know, I keep coming back to this thing. It's one that, you know, whether I put it on my EP or album list, it'll be pretty high up on either. I'm loving this thing, so I'm going to go with an 8.5 out of 10. And Here With You I Am by Reidy was my first experience with this guy's music, but it was a very positive one at that. He spends this EP at sort of an existential crossroads, questioning his existence and purpose in life, but it's the fact that he does it with such natural, poetic beauty that makes the material on this thing work so well for me. One thing I did not expect going into this was his constant use of singing, and while he doesn't have a traditionally good voice, I actually think this choice paid off on pretty much every song, except for Lost Kite Theory, where thankfully he's only singing on the chorus on here, so it's not like the entire song is ruined by this, but this one just has some very icy and rigid production. It's not atmospheric in any type of way, so it just makes his vocals stand on their own, and it kind of reveals the weakness in them. However, all the other songs on here where he's singing have much smoother and warmer beats, and in each instance they meld with his voice to create this really raw, emotional tone that actually sounds very blissful. And don't get me wrong, I do really like the beat on Lost Kite Theory with its mysterious tone and playful melody. I just don't think it suited his singing very well. Fall opens the project up, and in gorgeous fashion. It's my favorite song on the project, and as of now, one of my favorite songs of the year. Sonically, it is incredibly warm, cathartic, and embracing. As someone who is also a very existential thinker, this song kind of just takes my worries and flies them off like a kite in the wind, and it just leaves me appreciating life and all it has to offer. I love the reverse sounding synth and how it works off his voice, but I think what really puts me at peace from this instrumental is the euphoric, angelic backing vocal line, and like every song on this project, it's enhanced even more once you dive into the lyrics. I guess I'm just a little scared of the changes I want to see. You hope we can arrange it, hope that there's a future that's better than me. Basically, he's at a point where, you know, he is afraid of moving forward a bit. Maybe he feels comfortable where he is now, even though he knows there's a better future out there for him. There's a better version of him that he can attain. He knows he has to move forward eventually, but he's hesitant to do so, as many people often are when they're faced with big confrontational decisions. And his second verse on here is so good that I couldn't even pick one excerpt from it. It's just so vivid in terms of the imagery. It's so serene and beautiful and poetic in terms of what he's talking about. And yeah, it's just, again, it just really hits a very peaceful place inside of me. Too dumb to ever know the answers, too smart to ever live without a question, and the story ends the same way it starts, ash laying on the plains and our essence in the stars. My God lives in moments and breathes in color and moves through the rhythm that the music's under, faith going through the fatal hits, here's to hoping that it's all what we think it is. And I mean, even though the lyrics across this project and on this song have a lot of, as I said, religious overtones, and I myself am not religious, I don't think that matters, because I think always with great art about religion, you can kind of take it two ways. You know, if you're actually a spiritual person, then you can take it for what it is, but I think there's always in the great art something else to take away from it just about life in general, because that doesn't change, I think, whether you are or are not spiritual. So for me, I still get a lot out of this, whether or not I can relate to those exact elements. So it's not like this is just, if you're not religious, you're not going to enjoy this. I think if anyone can take a lot of beauty out of this. Even though I may not have been the biggest fan of the chorus on Lost Kite Theory, I think his verse on here was great. Broken so bad I can never break even, but the time in between is the time worth living. At least it feels that way when I'm inside. The insight got me gliding like a lost kite. Emphasis on lost, exiting the laws, I don't care what it cost. Dustin's mustache has some nice acoustic guitar-led production, and I love the very passionate and vocals on the chorus. Definitely one of my favorite choruses on here. And I love the line where he says, "But I live bare feet on the concrete at 3 a.m. and my feet are cold." If that's a metaphor for his life right now, just the position he's at in life, it's just very bleak, blunt, straightforward, but it kind of tells you all you need to know in just one line. Letdown Machine has some more great lines, but if you zoom out a little, connect the dotted lines, and see that disappointment is eternal, you might unlock the code that leads to transparency. And never seen a rapper fly high, below, or under me. We're all just buzzing bees. I particularly like that one. Reidy, he's not a big name rapper by any means. He's extremely underground. At the moment, he's very independent. Just a pretty small base at the moment. Hopefully that'll grow for him, because I think, obviously I think he is making good music here. But basically he's saying there's no rapper flying high or below him. They're all just buzzing bees, and if you've ever seen just a cluster of bees or flies or any types of those bugs, they're all just going around and in one kind of cloud, in one cluster, and you can't really distinguish one from the other. Basically he's saying at the end of the day, we, him and rappers are basically, even you can kind of take it to a next level and say all of humanity, is there really that much difference between us? All these things like fame and power and those kind of just abstract concepts and that don't actually exist. What does that actually mean? At the end of the day, everyone's human. So just kind of like that visual metaphor. And Mangled is a nice closer. I love the acoustic guitar line that comes to complement Reidy on the chorus. And the guy featured on here, Huckwheat, his voice to me and his flow and cadence, he kind of reminds me of a mix of Big Crit and Kendrick Lamar, so I definitely appreciated his contribution on here. Also shout out to Signor Benedict the Moor, who was on Lost Kite Theory. He had a great verse too. The guest features on here, both of them were good. So yeah, overall, I actually think this is a really good project. I'm excited to hear more from this guy in the future. I hope more of you guys go check him out, because as I said, he is pretty small right now. So, go show him some love. Go check this thing out. I think he makes really good music. I mean, there's definitely kind of a amateurish, I guess, sound in terms of the mixing, mastering, engineering on here, but all that comes with more success and a bigger budget, so that's kind of just natural. So it's not that much of a detriment, because I still really like this project. I just see that this guy has potential to make even better things, and also I guess there's just things like the hook on Lost Kite Theory that I'm not big on, and the production on Letdown Machine sounded a little bit cheesy to me with the beatboxing in there, but for the most part, I do really enjoy this thing, and I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. So yeah, thank you guys for watching my reviews of these two projects. Both of them are worth checking out in my opinion. Vince is worth revisiting if maybe the first time you didn't appreciate it the way that, I did. Not saying that everyone has to love this project like I do. I'm just saying, I think maybe if you look at it from a different light, you may get more respect, at least, for it than you originally had, but I digress. Anyways, check these both out. Tell me what you thought of them if you've already heard them, and thank you guys as always for watching, and I'll see you next time.